There's this core misunderstanding about how influence really works. We think, to be credible, we've got to sound smart, right? We reach for complex words to show we're an expert. But in those make or break moments, the ones that define a career or a company, that instinct isn't just wrong. It's completely backwards. So what does this quote really mean? Look, this isn't just about getting your point across. It's about controlling perception itself. It's about building a message so crystal clear that no one can twist it, no one can dismiss it, and no one can ignore it. That's where the real power in communication lies. All right, so here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll look at the core signal itself. Then, we'll trace the pattern across different domains. We'll get into the psychology of the game, tally up the real cost of complexity, see how the masters think, and then we'll wrap up with a few questions for you to audit your own approach. Okay, let's dive into the signal. The fundamental truth we're decoding is this. In any conversation, any pitch, any meeting, clarity is always going to beat perceived intelligence. It's just a basic law of how our brains decide who to trust and who has authority. So here's the trap we all fall into. The common belief that complex words and tangled sentences signal expertise, that they make us sound like we've got it all figured out. But the signal it actually sends is uncertainty. The human brain doesn't hear complexity and think, wow, they're smart. It hears complexity and thinks, they're not confident. It reads like you're hiding behind jargon because you haven't actually mastered the idea yourself. Now, this isn't just some abstract theory. Let's look at the pattern, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. This same force, this preference for simplicity, it shows up again and again in every single domain where influence is on the line. Think about it. In leadership, clear speakers are seen as confident, as decisive. In sales, it's the simple message that gets past a buyer's defenses and builds trust. In a crisis, simplicity and transparency are what make people feel safe and let you control the story. And technology? Well, the most disruptive ideas, they're always explained with this beautiful, profound simplicity. The pattern is absolutely undeniable. Okay, so why? Why does this pattern hold up everywhere? It's because communication isn't what you say. It's a game being played inside the listener's head. And this game has rules, psychological rules. If you understand them, you control the outcome. It all comes down to a concept called cognitive fluency. Basically, our brains are lazy. They're built to save energy. So when a message is simple and easy to process, the brain doesn't just get it faster, it actually labels it as more true, more credible. Ease equals truth. It's a mental shortcut that translates easy to understand into trustworthy. And this is the absolute key. This is where it all pivots. When you confuse your listener, their brain doesn't go, oh, I should try harder to understand this. No way. It thinks, this is difficult. This person is either confused themselves or they're trying to trick me. Confusion doesn't spark curiosity. It triggers doubt instantly. It's a trust killer. So, if you ignore this signal, what's the cost? Well, it's huge. For anyone whose job depends on being understood and trusted, the price you pay for being too complex isn't just a misstep. It's a complete failure. Just look at this. It lays out the trade-off perfectly. The more complex you make your message, the lower the trust. It's a direct inverse relationship. Every extra unnecessary word you add, you are literally trading away your own credibility. And this cost isn't abstract. It's real. Who loses? Well, it's the founder who gets a no from investors because the vision was buried under buzzwords. It's the leader whose team just spins its wheels because they're not sure what to do. It's the salesperson who accidentally creates resistance instead of desire. The expert who has all the answers but gets ignored. See, these conversations don't fail for lack of info. They fail because one person doesn't even realize what game is being played. All right, so how do you get the edge? What do the best communicators do differently? Look, it's not about memorizing tactics or following a script. It's a completely different mental model. They don't just use different words. They literally think about communication in a different way. Here's what most people do. When they feel a little insecure or they just want to sound thorough, they add. They pile on more data, more examples, more jargon. The thinking is more stuff equals more convincing. But the elite communicators, they do the opposite. They subtract. They do the really hard work of cutting and cutting and cutting away everything that isn't absolutely essential. They know the real power isn't in what you can add, it's in what you can take away to let that single, powerful, simple idea shine through. And this gets to the heart of it.
This is why simplicity isn't about dumbing things down. Not at all. It's the final, hard-won product of true mastery. It's proof that you've wrestled with an idea. You've turned it over and over until all that's left is its simple, elegant core. If you can't say it simply, you just don't own it yet. Okay, let's make this personal. Let's turn the lens on you. These aren't just things to think about later. This is a strategic audit, right now. First question. Think about a specific meeting, a pitch, a tough conversation you've had recently. Where are you pushing too hard to be understood? Where is all that effort you're putting in actually creating more confusion? Where is the strain itself getting in the way? Next question, what are you over-explaining? And let's be honest, this is usually about our own insecurity. It's a defense mechanism. So what part of your message are you padding out with extra words, not for them, but for you, to make yourself feel more secure? Because that's exactly where your audience smells weakness.
And finally, let's bring it all home. Think about the most important thing you're working on right now. What is the one single core idea that if you could just state it with absolute, undeniable clarity would change everything? That would unlock the whole situation. Finding that idea, distilling it down, that's the work.
Because at the end of the day, it's not the smartest person in the room who wins. It's the one who's understood the clearest.